Ah, there we go. All right. Got it. So now I just have to find the
Paul.
page. Got it.
Paul.
Okay.
I'm sorry?
Paul
Oh,
coming in.
oh, okay. Thank you.
All right, everybody seeing the screen, I hope.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So tonight, so it's going to be a little bit of a ebb and flow mix of folks who you'll be seeing at any various meeting. But today, since we're so focused on community engagement for the next portion of the project, I have with me tonight Alana Zabar, who you met last time as well, our community engagement specialist. So we can take a, touch base on where we're at so far, and then discuss some of the project engagement materials we prepared, talk a little bit about what we're thinking for the forum and kind of do some brainstorming with you as to who's gonna be there and which kind of station we'll have you assigned to, and then talk about what's coming next. So we are, let's see, in January. So shortly after this meeting, hopefully you've all had a chance to look at the draft community survey that was provided to you in a link and a PDF for the meeting materials. But we'd like to launch that this week after, we get any final thoughts from you. And that will run for about a month or so and close shortly after the public forum on the 10th of February. We have a number of marketing materials for that community workshop and survey that we can also talk about tonight. And I held two focus groups last night, and we have one more to go, which will happen on the 18th. They were very well attended, so we took lots of notes and we'll be transcribing and summarizing those. And then it's really just preparing the materials that we'll need for the community workshop. And we'll get in a little bit today into kind of what that design and those materials will look like conceptually, but we won't be showing that to you tonight because they aren't quite there yet. But we are also simultaneously, updating from your prior plan, the sort of profile, fact sheets, existing conditions and maps. So we're working on that, revising that, and we'll be using some of that material for the forum. So we will at least the staff kind of send them what we have before we send it to the printer and just make sure we, have proofed it with you all first. And that will really set us up well for getting feedback for the community on, vision and priorities for the next 5 years. And then we, write it all up pretty much, and start tackling things like application process and guidelines and scoring and anything that needs to be updated with that later in the spring. So are we ready to talk engagement materials, or are there any questions on the schedule?
I have a question on the survey.
Mhm.
And I know it's online. It will be online. Is it possible? We have a large number of people in town that are elderly, and they're
Mhm.
not all necessarily good with computers. And
Mhm.
in the past, when I've been involved with some surveys in town, we've used some paper and left them at the library, at the Council on Aging, at other similar places. Is that something that you've discussed doing?
We haven't discussed doing it yet, but I'm certainly open to it. What we've done before is provide a printable PDF that the town can print out. And then what we ask is that there's basically a volunteer who's willing to take the paper surveys received. There's usually not too many, and just input that data into the survey online so that we can have all of the analysis done in the same place. Is that something that you think we can do or figure out?
Yeah, I think I'll be happy to. When I was on the strategic planning committee, I was the one that sort of went around town and left them places and picked them up. I didn't enter stuff. I gave the paper to the folks that were doing the strategic plan with us.
Yeah, I mean, if there's really not too many, we can take care of it. I think if it gets over, you know, a certain threshold, we might ask for a friendly volunteer to help us with some of the data entry, but it, you know, yeah, that's something we can put together and send along.
Take care of the data.
Yeah, I can do the data entry.
I just think it's important that we allow folks that aren't comfortable with computers to give us their input.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good idea.
I will also add, hi, Alana Zabar. I don't know if it swapped to my face yet, but I'll add that the questions in the survey are designed to complement the in-person workshop that we're hosting, so that folks who prefer an in-person sort of opportunity, that they're going to be asked the same questions. So that's just another opportunity for folks who might not be as comfortable with a computer or don't have reliable internet access, who will be able to participate in the same way as well.
And actually, there's something that just came to my mind, because you're not expecting to do all the input until after the meeting, the workshop on the 10th. So we could have some paper surveys at the meeting on the 10th, if somebody wanted to fill it out at that point.
If somebody wanted to take them home and bring them to other folks, they'd be more than willing to. What I'm saying, and maybe I'm not saying it the best way, is the same questions that are on the survey are going to be the questions that we're asking at the forum. So they won't need to take the survey per se at the forum in that same like printed, because those will be on big boards for people to respond to around the room.
Thank you.
But I think having some copies of the survey that they can take home, and also, you know, the link handy that
Of course.
they can grab the, you know, slip or something and take it home to somebody who maybe couldn't make it to the forum. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to pause here because I want Alana to be able to catch us up with the results from the network analysis and the final kind of outreach plan. So do you need me to stop sharing, Alana, or do you want me to pull up the outreach plan?
I think we can keep it on this slide just for at least a little bit. I want to thank those who were able to take the network mapping assessment. We were able to bring those together into the PEOP, the Public Engagement and Outreach Plan. I did want to touch base with you all on the outreach goals that we talked a little bit about last time, and there were questions about them in the survey that you took. And so we weren't able to come to any sort of consensus based on the survey results in terms of what a fair percentage of your community to be shooting for would be. We got 3 responses to that question, and they varied from 10%, 49%, and 50% of your community to be involved in this process. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about picking a number, but also making sure that it is a realistic goal for your community. We often find that in a comprehensive plan, sort of master planning process, 10% of the community is involved. And so while I have no doubt that your community is very tight-knit and well-connected, I wonder if it is realistic that 50% of your community would be responding to and or attending a community preservation plan survey or public workshop.
Well, we have, well, at this time of the year especially, we have an issue with even the number of people that are here. Because many people aren't here during the winter, one reason or another. So this is probably from my perspective, the worst time of the year to be trying to get people to, between weather and people that aren't here because of part-timers and vacations and Florida, et cetera. Yeah.
Alana, you would be, the goal would be 10% of full-time adults.
Not
10% of the
necessarily
population.
adults specifically. We'd love to get youth involved in the process as much as possible.
Okay, so 10% of full-time
Also doesn't
residents.
necessarily need to be full-time
No,
residents.
I'd like to get the Eastham part-time residents involved as well.
Okay. But I think 10% is a reasonable number. It's winter, which means participation at physical
Yeah.
in-person events, depending on the weather, could be
Yeah.
limited. Survey results, I mean, a lot of times survey results are in the 3% category. So 10% would be, I think, above and beyond.
Yeah, Joanna here. I've never seen anything even approaching 50% ever in a community. But and even 10%, I think, is also would be extremely successful.
Yes.
Even
Yeah,
in the
I can add to that, the planning board where we have public sessions. Believe me when I tell you, I'd be happy to get 10%.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah, I
think
think,
50 will never happen, and
Right.
10 is reasonable.
I think if you're basing 10% on a 5,000 population that we have, 500 people would be unbelievable. To
Mhm.
get out, if we got 500 people out, it would be overwhelming.
And we have about, at the last census, 2020 census, I think a number was 5,700 or something like that for the town. So,
Which is the number we would base that.
But then again, Mayor,
that
then again, Mary, you really bring up a good point, because in the middle of the summer, we have 40,000 people.
Do we think that 5% would be a strong goal? Is that still too high for this initiative?
I would predict you won't even get 5%.
Yeah. I think 5% is more
Yeah,
realistic.
I think Dan's right. I don't think we do even get 5%. We get a couple hundred people, 150 people.
Yeah.
yeah.
And would that be satisfactory? Like, would that be, we want to be realistic,
that would
but we
be a
also want to
norm.
be acceptable, like, we want it to have acceptable results.
Well,
what percentage do we get coming to town meeting to vote? Believe it's really fairly most people yeah.
I think Elena, the problem would be when we see the turnout, it would be the demographics of the turnout too,
Right,
because I
right.
think you're gonna see 5% of people over the age of 65.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
so
right.
if we want to reach those other people, then we're gonna have to do some alternative
Yeah,
stuff.
right. I agree with you, Ed. The same people will show up for all of these types of things, and some of the people that we'd like to have included don't or can't come.
Well, but we're also counting the survey.
Oh, I
So
know.
the survey's
yeah.
electronic, so you don't have to show up.
No, no,
to do
no,
the
I'm just
survey.
saying is talking about the workshop.
No, but I think the engagement plan is 5%
So-
overall,
Correct.
Excuse-
not
Yes.
just the workshop.
Yeah.
Is there a problem if we set a goal at 10% and get 5?
There's no problem. It's more so we encourage communities to set a numeric goal so that they have something that they're striving for. It's sort of motivating to get the word out, to make sure you really are talking to your neighbors about taking that survey or coming to this workshop. But it's sort of just there's no like repercussions, if that's the question that you're asking.
Well, I think the point was made, generally speaking, the town meeting is around 1,000 people, if that, 900, 800. So that might be 15% or 20% of the year-round population, because they're the only ones that can come to a town meeting. So I think setting the goal at 10% is fine. And if we don't make it, we don't make it.
And I think we can try our best to do some work to try to get people there that we think might not be able to, or might not think of coming, in order to get more diverse group of people.
Yeah, and we're happy to help with that process as well.
So
Okay,
are we going with 5%? Is that what we're talking about?
I was thinking of going at 10 and just not making it.
Well, we could always go for 5 and then extend to 10 once we hit 5.
Yeah.
Fine.
At the last town meeting, we had about 300 people.
It averages between 300 and 400.
Yeah.
Unless it's a big deal.
Right.
Yeah, it depends upon the articles.
Right, but for the last couple of years, I just looked on the website.
Mhm.
Well, then we should do 5%.
I think 5% is realistic. And when you think about how many people we've ever had come to one of our public, in the beginning of the season, September meetings,
Hmm.
a handful maybe. So I think 5% is much
Yeah.
more realistic.
Yeah, I agree with the 5%.
Okay.
The
So,
non-residents, how are you gonna approach getting them? Because they're not gonna be at the forum or anything like that.
Well, we can get in touch with the folks that are involved with the Eastham Part-Time Resident Group and get the survey out to them.
Okay.
perfect.
Okay.
So I think
Okay.
we'll, move with the 5%.
So we're down to 5%.
Up to 5%.
Or up to 5%.
We're up to 5%.
Perfect.
We're going with 5%.
Sounds good. So we
Uh-huh.
will work, that was sort of the last thing on this draft of the POP that we were waiting to type in. So we will finalize that and get that over to you all as well.
Yeah, and there, do we want to walk through the results of the network analysis?
I am more than happy to.
Okay,
So
I think everything's in the,
everything
draft.
is in the draft, yes.
so do you have that or do you want me to pull that up?
I already have it up, so that
I will stop my share and see if you can.
that said, I will need permission to share my screen. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. So, as you all might remember, this used to be a blank page, just sort of with squares on it. But now it has been filled in. And so when you all did this sort of mapping assessment, we took a look at the different sort of organizations and committees that you all are connected to. And the way that we do this is that the primary connect network is our goal network. So if there was something that, for example, one of you had in your primary network, but one of you had in your secondary network, we're only listing it in the primary network because that is the most direct connection to that sort of community or board committee, et cetera. And we want to be using our most direct networks. And even in here, and I can circle back, but I can't remember off the top of my head, one of you did mention being connected to the Part-Time Resident Association. And so that might be the best person to make that sort of connection and send that survey off. We had 21 primary connections, 15 secondary connections, and 10 tertiary connections. And then we also identified a couple of sort of what we can call our traditionally underserved, underrepresented, and excluded communities. These are folks who we want to make an extra effort to make sure are represented at this, through this process. And these were sort of those taking the citizenship courses at the Eastham Public Library, the elementary school, specifically the PTA. Folks had mentioned Facebook groups, recreation department users, school parents, the Elks Club, the Tool Museum, the Methodist Church and their food pantry participants, and then the Wellfleet Theater. So we'll work on how to make sure we have intentional outreach to those groups, in addition to the groups that you all are already connected to. And this might be a perfect segue, but I can't remember if it's the next slide to our outreach. Is that the next slide on our PowerPoint?
The next slide is the outreach materials, yeah.
Stunning. Perfect. All right. I am gonna pass it back to Laura to talk through a little bit about what that next step looks like.
Okay, let's see. So maybe I'll start with the flyer. So this, excuse me, this flyer advertises both the forum as well as the survey. And I am realizing as I'm looking at this now, actually, that in addition to the QR code, we probably also want to actually just write out the link to the survey on there. But regardless of either, this is something that could be printed out and put up at some of those locations that people had kind of more tertiary connections to, but that are kind of public spaces, and they can certainly be put up at different, you know, municipal and school buildings if people are willing. Always, it could be attached to an email, and that kind of thing. And then we have, some things that are a little more suited to social media, or email. Let me see if I can get that up. Outreach materials. Okay, we have it in a few different ways. Let's see. Here's one. We have
Could you
it
go
as
back to
a,
that prior slide?
yes. To the flyer.
I think you mean 10 a.m. And
Oh my
instead of
gosh.
saying 12 p.m., maybe you could say 12 noon.
Yes.
Good, good, good,
Good catch.
good catch.
Yes, 10 a.m. to noon. And then also add the link. We have a short link. It's like Eastham
Yes.
EP or something at the end. So it's
surveymonkey.com/.
not an infinitely
Yes, I
long
saw.
convoluted
Yeah.
link. But because not everybody's gonna understand what a QR code is either. So
Right.
Janet,
All
are you
right.
saying you don't want to spend your Saturday night with us?
I have other plans.
Is there a midnight buffet?
Not at
I
my
might
house.
be
Fun.
very
I wonder if
happy,
people,
but
that'd be
I'm not
fun.
sure anyone else will be there.
You might get people if you have a midnight buffet.
Good thought.
Alas, the library staff may have some complaints. Also harder to have child-friendly activities.
Right,
But-
there you go.
Okay, so definitely, yep, we'll make those tweaks. And then we have a series of ones that are, you can post on social media. One is just, what is a community preservation plan? And you could add to this in a email script or a social media script and describe, like, you know, learn more about it at the upcoming forum, or take the, survey. Or did you know we're updating our plan? And we have, let's see, here's number 2. This one is about actually filling out the survey. So this one does have the link on there. And you could, embed that in the email or link to it in the social media too. So they could just click on it and go right to it. And we have a third one here. Where'd you go? There it is. This one's just to save the date for the community workshop. And we can also change that if needed, like 10 o'clock to noon. Yeah. Although we didn't do quite the same error, I can see how we just want to be really clear.
I have a question about the workshop. Is that going to be able to be Zoomed for folks, or is it only in person?
That one is only in person, but that's kind of why we're doing it with a complimentary survey. So if they can't make the forum, they can, there is a survey. We're advertising both. And so whatever works for folks, and we'll have the printed survey as well. So even if they're don't comfortable with computers and still want to take the survey, that we'll figure out a way for them to do that and have some paper copies around town.
And we'll also be just recording the brief presentation that we give as well. And then that can live somewhere on the town website, so that if folks were hoping to catch that piece of the open house, the workshop event, but aren't able to attend, they'll still be able to watch that presentation.
Yeah, we can record that and have that on the website. And at the end of that presentation, we'll make a plug for the survey as well to the people in the room and also the people watching from home, and have the link. And so even if, because the rest of the workshop wouldn't be very hybrid friendly, really, because it's going to be kind of open house and people milling about, and harder to have that as hybrid. But it, like Alana said earlier, it's the same kind of questions as on the survey. So if they take that, they should be able to contribute that way. Okay, let's see. Where were we? There we go. Come on. Advance. There we go. Okay, so I think we touched on marketing materials here, so we kind of skipped ahead, but now I'm gonna go back. We'll go back into the survey itself, and look at those questions, because those are the same sort of questions that we'll be doing at the forum. I'm happy to pull it up. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll just share the actual. Where'd it go? I know I have it. Oh, I see. Sorry, forgive me while I find the right window. There it is. Okay. So here is the survey, just actually kind of on the back end of it. That's why you see all this other stuff on the side, but we have at the top of the survey an introduction about kind of what it is. And at the forum, we will also have a poster, on an easel. We'll have kind of a CPA 101, if you will, station. So if people aren't familiar with it, they can learn a little bit about what it is and who you all are. And we thought it actually came out, was a great idea at a focus group last night to just, when we're done with the forum, to leave you with that poster and that foam core board so that you can just have it along with information for CPA and display it at the library for not, duration of this project, but maybe you just put it away and bring it back again when it's kind of application time, and just help get the word out about it for projects. So happy to leave that, that with you at the end of the forum. We have a question here where we make sure people know that we have to have people make some responses to the survey because we're really trying to get at people's priorities. So they're going to have to have some required questions on here. So we want to make sure people are somewhat paying attention. And then we ask their relationship to Eastham.
Laura,
Yes.
excuse me, this is Carolyn. Do you want comments as you go through these pages, or how do you
Sure.
want to wait to the end?
That's fine. Let's take them as it comes.
Okay, well, I don't know, Paul, if you'd sent on the okay. I sent an email with some detailed questions. I won't go through those now, but if you could take a look at those. A couple of overall comments. It's really important that surveys be easily understood by the participants. And one of the factors for that is the level of readability of the survey, the grade level of English that's written in. I tested this and it's written at the 19th grade level. That's probably beyond, from a comprehension perspective, that's really makes it difficult for people to comprehend the content of what you're asking. I would strongly encourage you to go through, and some of my comments are in the detailed stuff that I sent are trying to write it in a way that's easier to understand. I would shoot for about a 10th grade level at the most on average. Some things like the first sentence about that is the MGL chapter 44B, some things you can't fix, but other things I think you can. And I think that's extremely important. So,
yeah, I agree. And I believe my colleague did go through the survey already and update it with your comments in mind. But if you feel like that hasn't been done or done to the a level that it needs to be,
okay.
We can take another look at it and
right.
see what else we can do.
Okay. The second comment I have is that the one of the problems we've had with surveys in the past is that inadvertently, more than intentionally, but we have people who answer the survey 2 and 3 times, so that instead of getting a representative sample of the community, you're getting one that's, you can't statistically validate because you have multiple responses from the same people. Do you have a back end way to check to be sure that we're not getting duplicate answers?
Beyond a back end, yeah, sorry, I just went for it, sorry. Beyond just a back end way to check, we actually don't allow. So the way that this platform works is that it is internet based, and so the platform itself is able to see whether or not you've already taken the survey, and it will not allow you to take it a second time.
Right.
What that
That-
means
yeah.
is, it's based on sort of your IP address. And so if you have two people in the same home who are trying to take the survey, they'll need to take it on separate devices.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's one of the I guess that's both a pro and a con, because sometimes people may only have one main computer and then they're trying to share it with multiple family members and be like, why can't I take the survey? So depending on the community, sometimes we usually set a limit of some sort. Sometimes we set it to like 3 or 5 or something rather than only once. But if that's something, you're really concerned about, then we would set it to only once, so that they would need, just, every person taking the survey would need their own device to take it. But you can take it on a phone or a computer or any number of ways. It should be friendly. So
We
Well,
can
you're-
also set up, I'm so sorry, we can set up a secondary link, which is not as publicly advertised, that they call it like a kiosk collector on our end, which allows you to have it on like the computer at the library or at the workshop, that people can take it over and over again. And the answers go into the same analysis, but it's just sort of a separate link into the survey, so that you can still preserve the sort of widely shared survey link as only being able to take once, but we're
Right.
able to get around that in other spaces where we need to.
Okay. Well, certainly you are the experts and will be the ones presenting the statistical reliability and validity of the information. So use your judgment, but that I know has been an issue in the past.
Appreciate that, yeah.
And then I'll leave all the rest except for one, the very first paragraph in the introduction, the second paragraph, excuse me, that starts out through a 3% surcharge. I don't think we should start anything with, we're charging you more taxes. I think that paragraph needs to be written, the 3% surcharge needs to be there, but I wouldn't recommend making that the first thing that somebody reads.
So we'll just move that to further down or a different.
Further down
spot.
somewhere else. I'm not trying to hide it so much as let's not make that the first thing we say to people.
Any other comments on the introductory section of the survey? All right, so after the introductory section, we ask about the individual's relationship with Eastham. And then we ask about overall priorities. So the 4 project categories and how you might rank them as in terms of being 1, 2, 3, or if they are all equally important to an individual, then they can, do it that way as well. We'll have a similar activity at the forum with different jars and pom-poms, and people will get little pom-poms to represent a certain percentage of the kind of unallocated funds, and have a chance to kind of put pom-poms, vote with their pom-poms on which buckets they would ideally like to have as higher priorities, or not, or they can throw them in evenly. And then we're asking about kind of these overarching principles that we have in your previous plan, although if people have other ideas, they can add those into, just to see if these are all still important to the community or if they have other ideas. So we have the ones I'm sure you're familiar with, leveraging other private and public funding, being compatible with other community initiatives, having CPA projects that touch multiple areas and funding categories, and ones that are, let's see, reinforce or compatible with both the CPA goals within a project's funding category and CPA goals in other CPA categories. So they're sort of similar, not necessarily a joint project, but consistent with multiple goals. And then there may be other ideas. You know, maybe people are like, hey, I think sustainability is something you should, you know, rank things on or whatever. They may have other thoughts and we can bring those to you, especially ones that maybe, you know, multiple people said the same thing. Any comments on the overall section? No? Okay. So then we get into each separate topic. We talk a little bit about what eligible activities are, give some examples and what's not eligible. And then we we're being kind of mean, we're forcing people to make some choices here. But people can choose, you know, 1 to 3, and they have to pick something about active top recreation. So here we've stated the goals from the prior plan, but we're hoping people will also bring some new ideas. So, you know, active outdoor rec and rehabilitating your existing ones, and then the community center idea as well. And we have a little chart on some of the eligibility, and then a spot where people can add ideas. And the rest of the sections flow very much like this. So recreation, housing, we talked a little bit about what the median income is and the housing priorities that were in your previous plan. But if, you know, if there are other housing priorities that you feel like you want to possibly change or something based on the latest housing production plan, and you let us know. We're sort of starting from the prior plan and just seeing if these are still, which ones of these especially are going to be rising to the top, and then gathering some new ideas. And historic preservation, similar. A little bit about eligibility and examples, and asking people to pick 1 to 3 of the their top goal priorities. A little bit about eligibility and new ideas. And open space and passive recreation, examples, priorities from the previous plan, and then a spot for new ideas. And then at the end, we ask people to volunteer. It's not required, but we do ask them to volunteer some demographic information. It's kept anonymous, and people can say prefer not to answer to anything they don't feel comfortable with, but this does help us get some sense of, are we getting a representative sample of the community? So we have age, gender, racial identity, income, how long someone's been associated with Eastham. And that's really it. And then we have some links, so hopefully it's pretty easy for people to share that, you know, on their own Facebook or through email, or they can copy paste the link and share it any way they like. All right, so that's that. Any further comments on the survey?
I'd just like to make one, oh, sorry.
No, go
was that
ahead.
Jan?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Jan.
I'm curious as to the choosing of the term community housing.
Yes, so that is, rather than calling it, that's almost a technical phrase. So we say community housing rather than affordable housing, because community preservation funds can be funded up to 100% of area median income, whereas most deed restricted affordable housing that you can put on your subsidized housing inventory is limited to 80% area median income or below, but you can fund things through CPA that are not going to be necessarily eligible to be put on your subsidized housing inventory, but still provide some more financially attainable housing to folks. And so the term that is used for that with in association with CPA especially is community housing.
I just, I don't know why I don't think it's necessarily the right term, but I'll go along with it. Carolyn, you have no problem with it?
I think what she said is correct. From a CPA perspective, the term is community housing. That's what CPA regulations say.
Okay. No other questions?
And I have a thought that I think from my perspective, what I'm most interested in getting from the folks that participate are their ideas on other projects that would be not acceptable, but be considered for the CPA monies. Because I think that we've been using the same people, the same committees to get submissions for so long now. You know, we have the open space, we have the recreation department, et cetera. That I don't think people are fully aware that there are other possibilities for using the money. And I'm most interested in hearing from folks that might have some ideas on how they, what other projects we could proceed to get involved with.
Yes, I agree. Yep. And we'll be able to summarize all of those ideas from the forum and from the focus group and from the survey for you as part of our overall community engagement summary. And then we can make some decisions about how that might be incorporated into the new updated draft. All right. So I think we're ready to move on.
Could I just make a comment on the workshop? You have on the workshop, you have folks listed to be involved with the team members.
Yes, that's a separate, we want to discuss that with you. That's still very, that's a draft. We want to make sure who is able and willing to come and able and willing to host one of those activity stations, who ideally, that you serve on that kind of board or committee or something and you have good knowledge of that topic.
Right, and you have under Station 1, you have Dan Koppelman, who was just chatting a minute ago, and unfortunately he is out of town and will be out of town for the workshop.
Yeah, so why don't we just hold that thought, because we're going to get to that discussion in just a moment. I just want to make sure we get through some of this outreach materials first, if that's okay.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay. So I think the only last thing to touch on is the frequently asked questions page, which you can also, display in conjunction with a flyer or use the content on the website or on social media, however you would like, where you can get more information. And we already talked about that. So there we go. Perfect timing. We're already there. So forum design. Who of you is planning on being there? And then we can figure out how many stations we need. Pretty much we want some sort of we want a sign-in table, someone to host a kind of sign-in table. We need someone to be at a CPA kind of 101 table. Let me just, maybe it's easiest if I don't look at this and I just actually pull up the forum design materials. Did I pull that up? I think I did. Red guide, yeah. See FAQ, but I don't see. I don't know why I can't. It's probably the same one. Let's see what happens if I show FAQ. Are we seeing that? Okay, there we go. It's all the same PDF. All right, so here we go. All right, So our team's gonna worry about setup. You don't have to worry about that. We would ask anybody who's volunteering to host the station, arrive a little bit early, like 15, 20 minutes early, so we can get you oriented to the room. There's so there's some, a registration and sign in station that can be really hosted by anybody, staff or board or committee member. And then the presentation is going to be done by Jen and myself with an introduction by either the CPC chair or Paul Egg. It doesn't really matter to us. And if needed, we can combine some of these stations. So the 101 and evaluation.
That's the one that I'm listed at, and I'm in Florida, so I won't be able to.
Yeah, no worries, no worries.
Okay.
We can either have us, one of our staff members at that table, or, I think, for example, Station 1 and Station 2, I think could be combined, and Alana can run both. So I think that would solve that problem. We've done that before. For active recreation, do we have a volunteer from one of those boards who's willing to come to the library on Saturday morning?
I may be out of the state. I'm not sure at the moment.
Ed, can you do the station 3, Ed?
You may have left for the basketball game.
Oh, that's
Oh,
right. Oh, that's right. He had to leave early for a basketball game. I forgot about that. I don't know. Well, Saturday, he might have a basketball game on Saturday. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll just take notes that we might still need a volunteer for the recreation station. And we can follow up offline after the meeting and figure that one out. Do we have someone who's able and willing to host the community housing station?
I'll do that. This is Carolyn. And
Okay,
we can check with Eileen to see whether she's planning to come or not.
okay. Yeah, it's no worries if we have more than one person on station. I just want to make sure we have at least one.
Right.
How about historic preservation?
I should be back in town by then. This is Mark.
Okay,
So I, unless something happens, I'll let you know, but I should be available.
okay. And then open space.
Joanna,
Yeah, remind me which Saturday is this?
the 10th of February at 10, from 10 to
Yeah.
12, or a little bit earlier than 10.
Yeah, that's fine. I can do that.
Okay,
I
So
have a
have-
problem with that. I'm supposed to be at a wedding in New Jersey.
okay.
So I guess if the weather's bad and I can't go,
Well,
Yeah,
let's,
no problem. It sounds like we have the station
You'll have
covered.
to have the
Joanna
wedding
did
here.
volunteer,
Right.
so.
Right? Boost our attendance.
Oh, dear.
And then we'll have, in theory, myself at the Station 7 with just overall feedback, questions and next steps. But honestly, if that's also one that's easy to kind of just let people do without a host, and I can host recreation if we need someone to host recreation. And then I figured that Jen is probably going to be more of a floater, along with Paul and or Stacy, and kind of troubleshooting, talking with people, asking questions, that kind of thing. So for now, unless I hear otherwise, I'll put myself at recreation. I won't be a local expert, but I can at least, answer some basic questions around eligibility or collect ideas and kind of host it. So, and we'll plan on having, I think, Station 7 just unstaffed. unless there's, you know, a volunteer who shows up and, oh, yes.
Just active rec, I can, if Ed's not available or Christine or somebody, I've worked with them before. I know a lot of their projects, and so I could not run back and forth, but if there need some help
Yeah.
with questions, I can help be a backup.
Okay, well, that's, thank you, that's generous of you. We can, well, I'm sure it's probably not that huge of a space anyway, but we can put those stations somewhat close-ish to each other and,
Yeah, that
and
would
then,
be great.
yeah, between you and me, we can manage it, I'm sure.
That could be part of Joanna's recreation for the day.
Get our steps in. So pretty much the library provides all the, you know, projectors and the screens and stuff, and we'll bring the boards and the easels and the presentation materials and some light refreshments and the sign-in sheets, and any name tags and things like that. And there will be a child-friendly activity happening at the library at the same time. So if there are parents with young children who want to kind of distract them, they can. If they're a little bit of an older child and they want to participate, children are definitely welcome and able to provide their ideas too. So we'll just try to make that, you know, clear to folks. But if you have volunteered, so for Joanna and Carolyn and Mark, and Paul and Stacy too, if you're planning on attending, then showing up, you know, we say 30 minutes, honestly, like you could show up a little bit closer to the start time if you needed to, but
Especially
just
since the library's locked until 10.
well, hopefully, I mean,
I'll let you
the
through the staff
planner, I mean,
door.
the director knows that we needed access to the building ahead of time. So
all-
I
it's
think
all
we'll
been
have a
squared
secret
away.
way in.
We're all
So
set.
we can set up, yeah. So the doors should be open, but yeah, I'll make sure that I get, you know, in touch with the library director and confirm, you know, what happens if I arrive and the doors are locked, for example. Okay, yeah, and then we'll probably actually we'll let maybe a few minutes go by for people to come in and mingle, and then we'll have an area that'll be set up for the presentation, and we'll kind of do our brief presentation, and we'll record that, and we'll, you know, push the survey for the folks who weren't able to make it, and then we just let people go. We let people kind of mix and mingle and get refreshments and chat with the stations, and they can spend as long or as little time as they want. They don't have to do it in order. They don't have to visit every station. And that's pretty much that. Like, you know, there's a little bit more details on here about kind of the different roles. But one location is the POM 101, CPA 101, and kind of pom-poms with the different priorities and categories, and otherwise there's a station for every topic. So it's pretty simple. The kind of things we'll have up there, we'll always have a board that's a blank one for people to write their ideas and priorities and project ideas and comments. And then we have a board that's going to be usually if there's a map, appropriate map, you know, we've started updating some of the maps that, for example, similar like you had in your prior plan. Might have a map so people can visualize different kind of resources. The housing, sometimes we do more of a few stats or key facts or something like that. So just a few things to get people's minds thinking about those topics and what the town has. And otherwise it's really about just gathering ideas. All right, so any other thoughts or comments on the forum?
Any questions from anybody?
No.
Thank you very much for the presentation and for the work that you've done to get us to where we are at the moment.
Yeah, thank you. I think we're pretty much where we need to be. I think the only thing to touch base on is next steps, which really are just the one remaining focus group on the 18th, and then getting the community workshop going, and meanwhile, you know, finalizing the background research and analysis on the different kind of little profile snapshots. So that's what we're up to.
I just have a comment. I did sort of audit the two focus groups last night. And I was a little upset that we didn't have more people that were on the focus group for the housing.
There was a space limit. That was all that could sign up.
Yes, we purposefully limit the number of people in the focus groups we try to keep it to no more than 7. Just because if it gets too many more than that, it gets a little unwieldy to manage. And with about 4 to 7 people, you tend to get a more in-depth conversation going. So I actually was pretty happy with the turnout. I think housing was missing. I think one person couldn't make it, but everybody made it to historic preservation, so that was good.
Yeah. The number of folks on the historic preservation part were quite a bit higher than the number on the housing.
Mm.
That was.
Were there different limits in participation?
No, that was just that.
Because the limitation on the housing was closed out.
That was because.
Yeah, there were a couple people who were unable to come that day for one reason or the other, who had signed up, but then weren't able to make it. One of which we heard that she couldn't make it, and one of which, when I checked the attendance, just never arrived. But there was someone else, right, from the Community Development Partnership that wasn't on the
Yes.
original list. So we got still a pretty good number for a focus group, I think, at the end.
And how are the numbers looking for the 18th focus group?
Very well, very good. Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay.
I think it's full up.
Yeah, well, that's 2 together, so I think it's easier
Yeah.
to get the folks that you want when you've got two together. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much, and
Yeah, thank you.
we're down to see you again. We see, well, the 18th is the focus group. The workshop is the 10th.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and our next meeting like this is March 6th. So.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, and we could talk about everything that we've learned from all of this stuff.
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yep.
Have a good night, everyone.
Yep. Same to you.
Thank
Right.
you.
Let's see here. Move this over here. Okay, we are on to the agenda, and I believe we have an individual here that would like to chat with us on the Schoolhouse Museum Edition.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize as many people would be on Zoom, so.
I'm sorry?
I didn't realize as many people would be on Zoom. I've got some things I'm gonna
Oh,
have to read to people, but,
okay. Get this out of your way.
if you could pass this around and everybody could take one.
Oh, this is,
Yeah, just.
just one thing. Okay, I wasn't sure what exactly it was.
Should Paul and Stacy get one?
What? Yeah, oh, sure. So I want to start with a little bit of background. And I'm not the historical expert on this. Marka is, and she's given me most of the data. Originally, there were 6 buildings in town that were schoolhouses. Wow. And they were spread throughout the town. The current schoolhouse on Schoolhouse Road was the central one. Okay, but there were 5 others. So over time, they took 2 of the buildings, the other buildings, and they moved them to the central schoolhouse and connected them. Okay, so what you had was basically a T. You had the main schoolhouse, then you had a schoolhouse to the left and a schoolhouse to the right. And they had, in the center of them, they had a workshop, okay, where for work, manual arts and stuff. Over time, one of those wings just totally deteriorated, just fell apart, was taken down and removed. The other wing was used for a while as a house and was also used by the volunteer fire department because they didn't have a place. But eventually that was also demolished. In 2006, CPA approved funds were used to reconstruct one of those wings based upon the historical information that they had. Now, we would like to reconstruct the other wing to bring it back to what it looked like when when it was a T. The reason for that is there's a couple different reasons. Number one is we have a significant number of items that we can't display. Our basement is full of stuff. We have lots of pictures and posters that we like to get up on walls, but we have no wall space. So the addition of this wing will allow us to hang a bunch of items. We also have another bunch of items that are too large for what we have, and this will give us a space. I'm going to pass around some pictures. This one is the portraits of the Kate Moore Alpert family, past president of the Historical Society. Okay, that's one of the things. This is these are pictures of the Eastham ballot box. Right now, we can't display these. This
Are
is,
these all in your basement?
yes.
You want me to pass this
Yeah, just
around?
pass it around so we can take a look. Here's the ballot box, okay?
Down there.
We have a sailmaker bench that was built by by Ken Collins, who was the
I have
original
it.
president.
It used to be on the select board.
And that's too large to display at this point in time. And then the piece de resistance is a beam from the Perth Amboy. This was sunk by a German U-boat in 1917. Okay. These are the kind of items we want to display, okay? But with the current configuration, we don't have room. The other thing is that we rotate our displays, but the more you move these items, the more potential damage you incur as they move up and downstairs. So this is really to give us some additional space. What we've submitted is a total estimated cost of $599,200, of which we're asking for CPA funds of $447,200.
That's the big-
And the Eastham Historical Society would be contributing $152,000. We've got bids from 5 contractors. Contractor A bid $448,282. Contractor B bid $448,606. Contractor C bid $484,417. Contractor D bid $601,444.
Is that the one you're going with?
No. We've already sent them a letter, said thanks, but no thanks. And contractor E bid $460. So they're all coming in pretty much between $440, $460, $450. We have set up interviews with all these contractors, with the 4 other ones,
Yeah.
to try and come down to a final selection. The costs that are, we've given you the estimated cost. Yeah, excuse me. These contractor costs are fall costs. They don't take into account inflation. Okay, we have added some money as you look at the layout that we submitted. We've added an 8% inflation factor.
I was just gonna ask about
In
that.
anticipating how much it will cost when we do this. The proposed schedule said that we would start this sometime in July. And my anticipation is that we would want to run through our normal season before we began any construction. So I'm thinking construction would be more like September or so for starting. We think it's a great project. We've got the Historic District Commission has supported it. Everybody we've talked to has supported it. The Architectural will be the same as the current wing on the interior, and duplicate on the exterior what the original wing looked like, which was pretty much what the wing that we put on already looks like. So it's gonna be, we're basically building a shell. And it'll have a basement, and we'll use that for additional storage, archive storage. So, if there's any questions I can answer?
Will you have humidity control?
Yes, we have humidity control now,
I
and
know.
there's humidity control through the whole building, basement, and the display areas.
You're gonna have the windows treated like,
Yes. Well, I would imagine we would not use that treatment because guy wasn't really great.
oh, yeah.
I would imagine we'll get windows that are already, light sensitive, or however,
Yeah.
what you call it.
And is there any ADA accessibility in the new part, or is it just in the front of the building? Is that
The ADA accessibility will be in the front of the building.
like it is now?
Yeah. There's also accessibility in the back of the building right now, too.
ADA?
Yeah. But we don't, it's not a public entrance,
Oh,
but
oh.
there is a ramp back there.
How many people on average in a year come through the museum?
I'd have to get that for you. I don't know. I can get that though.
Well, for a project of this order of magnitude, I think that's an important number.
We have quite a few, and then Thursday nights, we have presentations all throughout the summer,
I've been there.
and we probably average 60 to 70 people in those presentations.
But those presentations wouldn't require the new room.
They will help us, but that's not the purpose of the new room.
Right.
Right now, we have to move everything in the schoolhouse to the side to be able to have those presentations. I'm hoping that the way we structure the displays in this new wing will allow us to not do as much moving to be able to have the presentations.
How many days a year is the museum open?
We normally open sometime in June, close normally around October. And based on the ability to get staffing, we're probably open 2 or 3 days a week. But I can get that for you too.
And I have a question, with this addition, obviously you're hoping that more people will come to see the items that you have. You have very little parking there. Is there, will there be a requirement that somehow or other you add parking somehow, or which I don't know how you would do?
No,
I was just
we've
wondering.
looked at that. Pretty much our parking is in front of the building.
Oh, I know.
That area across,
Mhm.
okay,
Yeah,
is not our land, but people park
I
there.
know.
Then people park at the seashore. There's no plans for any additional parking. I mean, the big flow is when we have a presentation
Oh, yeah.
during the day.
They're parking all, I live on that street,
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
I'm-
During the
yeah.
day, there's never a problem with parking.
And I know, I think I saw a while back that you did get a letter of support from the individual that lives right next door,
Yes,
Idleback.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I saw that. Did you get any other letters of any kind?
Just from the Historic District Commission.
Not from any other neighbors in
No.
particular? Yeah, okay.
Do you know what the square footage is of the new addition?
I think it's about 800 square feet. Garrett,
I
find out.
might be on here.
I'm
I
pretty,
tried to find it. I couldn't.
I'm pretty sure it's 800 square feet. The exact same size as the one that's there.
I think 800 square feet is about right, Art.
Yeah, that's what sticks in my head.
And what, all year round, the archives are open 2 or 3 days a week for people to come in by appointment, but someone's always there, so it's used. The museum is used year round.
And I have another question. I'm looking at the plans here. You've got structural engineer Siebold. Is that person related to Eileen?
Yeah, it's her son.
It's her son. Do you have any issues regarding that or?
He's doing it for free. That's why his name's there. He agreed to do it gratis.
Is that a problem to have a structural engineer that's related to the
I don't,
current chair?
he's a licensed engineer on,
I think of a.
I can help you with that. There is no problem. If the engineer is willing to sign and seal the drawings, it doesn't matter who he's related to.
And as long as that relationship is disclosed from a public body perspective.
Right, and you can't beat the fee.
that was why we did that.
Oops.
The addition of the
Mary?
plans of 25 by 800 square feet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Joanna has a question.
Joanna has a
Oh,
question.
oh, I'm sorry. Hi, you're in the dark up there.
Dark, but I raised that funny little yellow hand.
Yeah.
Thanks. Art, I think this is a great project. I wonder what the schoolhouse and the historical society's plans are for continued fundraising for donations to offset some of this. I know you at our last meeting you shared that the initial very substantial contribution was $100,000.
We have a little over $100,000 and we're gonna do a fundraiser to get the rest of that money. So
To get the rest of
the 152.
okay. I just it would be great to see whatever push to raise more funds. I think a lot of people would probably be quite interested. I know there's bricks that have people's names on them. Is there any possibility to offer some kind of naming incentive for larger donors that may offset whatever we might, if we approve CPA funds for it, would offset that?
We can look at that. We have not actively started fundraising yet till we got through the process of knowing, first of all, whether we were even eligible or not, and getting a better feel as to where we are with the CPA, and then we plan to do a major fundraising. But yeah, there might be something we could offer for that.
Thanks.
If it's 800 square feet, that makes the construction cost $600 per square foot,
Roughly.
roughly.
We have 5 quotes and they're all coming in the same.
Right.
So I mean, I think we've got a good handle on how much it costs in fall 2023 cost.
Right. When we did the 2006 project, that was before my time.
So a lot less.
260,000.
Yeah.
And that refurbished, besides the wing, that refurbished the old schoolhouse.
That wasn't going to be my question, but thank you. That was very helpful. What I was wondering was what percent of the costs for that project were donations versus CPC funding?
I know that we approved, based on my records, 260,000, and we got back a little bit, not quite 3,000 back, but I don't know whether
That was
the total cost of the project. I don't know that. I mean, they asked,
80,000.
what was the 80,000?
That was donated by members of the public.
Towards the project,
Yeah, when
which
this-
we paid 260 for, so that
when
came
this
to,
was submitted.
so that means it
That-
came
that's
to
the
about
prior one?
340.
This was the prior one, yeah.
Yeah.
It was 80,000 when they submitted this.
So was the total budget 340? Or was it
Well, it was 260 from us, and he's saying it's 80 from them, so that's 340. So 340 divided by 800?
Yeah, so about 25%. Came from donations the last
The
time.
cost of building in 2006 compared to
Mhm.
compared to 2024 is sort of insane.
Art, the difference between the contractor quote and the total estimate, is that for display cases and
Yeah, it's,
the inflation?
we put some additional money in for, inflation. There's a contingency in that. There's some permits, there's the architectural fees, and there's display cases.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, there's a page that says that.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? I'd like to make a comment, as I think most of us are aware, we're not finished with the discussion of the projects for this year. We have upcoming the 580 Massasoit Road that we have no clue on at this point. And the Affordable Housing Trust that's still outstanding. We don't have that. And so I am going to recommend that we hold off voting on this project until we have a better understanding of the entire cost of the preservation funds that are available. Until we have the entire picture of what projects we do have that we need to deal with. And right now we're scheduled to have the Affordable Housing Trust, but the Massasoit Road one for February 7th.
Which is now the 8th.
Which is, we're talking, we haven't had that conversation yet, but we were scheduled to have a meeting on February 7th, according to our normal schedule here. The Finance Committee also has a meeting on February 7th at the same time. The two of us are on the Finance Committee. And I did speak with the audiovisual folk before this meeting, and we would be able to have our meeting on February 8th on a Thursday night in order to have the Finance Committee meeting on February 7th.
I can't come on the 8th.
Mhm.
Could we do it on the 1st?
First of what?
1st of February, the week before?
That'll
No,
be-
no, that wouldn't work with the schedule. The audiovisual schedule.
The 8th is a
Is the-
ZBA meeting.
I'm sorry?
8th is
Oh.
a ZBA meeting also, I think.
Because I was checked with Wayne and they said that the 8th would be available.
So Mary?
Yeah.
Carolyn's.
Oh, Joanna?
I know we have to work out when we're gonna have other meetings, but for this particular application, is there something missing? I mean, because the funds available from whatever category aren't gonna dictate what we decide on this moving forward. So I'm just wondering why we aren't, why aren't we ready to vote on this particular one tonight?
Because I felt that since we don't have the information for 580 Massasoit, and I think that it's best if we, since that also is a preservation project, I think it would be best for us to have a full picture of everything that is needed before a decision is made. That's my recommendation.
Personally, I support that. It's a large dollar amount. And we've got several other large dollar amount projects. So I think we're gonna need to balance those out somehow. We don't run out of money.
Well,
Okay.
also, we're going to have a meeting in March. So, I mean, in February also. So, I mean, it's not as though we're gonna have to have a meeting. I don't know what the date's gonna be, so we will be meeting.
Right.
If it's not the 7th, it's the 8th. If it's not that, it's something else, but we have to have a meeting that month. So, and I don't think it adversely affects the project if we wait until then until February to actually vote on it. I don't see where that's detrimental to the applicant, so I would agree to wait.
It's not a problem.
Resolving the meeting date is important, but we will have a meeting. We have to.
That's correct.
On the 8th, could we meet at 4 o'clock?
I'd have to check with, Paul is thinking that there's a ZBA.
I was wrong.
Oh,
Yeah.
because I did check with Wayne and Devin before this meeting, because I knew that we had a problem with the 7th between finance and CPA. And he said the 8th was available.
You would be good at 4 o'clock if you wanted that.
On the 8th.
On this-
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
on the- That works for you?
Would that work for, me said that will work, that's a Thursday, yeah. Will that work for most people? That,
Well,
based on
Paul, didn't you say there's somebody else that's allocated?
no,
for
no,
this?
he checked it out and there's no problem, there's no
Okay,
conflict.
then I'm good.
I'm good if we can do 4 o'clock.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
okay. So what I'm planning on for February 8th, Thursday, February 8th at 4 o'clock here would be the 580 Massasoit Road discussion, the Sandy Meadow discussion. We've been told that Karen Strauss should have the information that we need for
I'll have to check to see if she's
yeah,
available on the
for
8th.
for the Sandy Meadow for the 8th. Well, we're gonna have it for the 7th, but for the 8th. And the Affordable Housing Trust. Now, my only concern is that that's 3 projects. And normally on that day, we would be doing the
Conditions.
the conditions, so that may be a lengthy meeting. Because that's when we do all the financial stuff.
Could we do the conditions on this at the March meeting?
Yeah, then we could probably, yeah, that's just on March 6th right now. We just have the 5-year plan.
Right.
So,
Yeah, we could do it then.
Don't really take all that long.
Yeah.
No.
I'm sorry, Dan,
Yes, we could do it then.
the conditions
Sure.
on the 6th.
March 6th.
It could, let me see, because that's the 5-year plan, so we could do. Well, this meeting tonight with the 5-year plan was about an hour. So, if we assume that the others will be about an hour, so to speak,
And
that would give us time to do. Yeah,
I
okay,
think, and we usually what we do is kind of do a draft of the conditions and send it out ahead of the
Yeah, yeah.
meeting, so it goes pretty fast.
yeah. Okay, so I just want to go over everything that we're just talking about here. Number 1.
Can I,
Go ahead.
can I go?
Oh, yes, oh, I'm sorry.
I will,
You were one to
I will
say
get you answers to those questions, okay?
Sure.
And I'll send them to Paul and he can distribute them.
That'd be
Thank
great.
you very much for your
Thank you,
time.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Art.
Eric.
Thank you, Art.
You're welcome.
So we have our next meeting will be February 8th at 4 o'clock. At that meeting, we will be discussing, is there any reason that we wouldn't have the 580 Massasoit information?
Oh,
Okay. We will have the 580 Massasoit Road submission. We will have hopefully from Karen, the Sandy Meadow submission. And we will have the Affordable Housing Trust submission.
And the
And
voting on the schoolhouse.
yes, correct. And we will plan on doing the conditions. You see how, normally we also have down for the, which we're saying is the 8th now, the reserve allocations. That doesn't normally take a lengthy amount of time. So we should probably keep that there. We'll do the conditions on the 6th of March. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Everybody?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, conditions down to here. Okay. And so we have, our next meeting with Jen is, Jen's group is March 6th. Then we have another one, April 3rd, May 1st, and June 5th is down right now for Jen. Is there something that we need to have done in time for town meeting? The last date I saw for town meeting was May 6th. Is there anything that we need to
No, nothing's.
have up for, as far as the warrant is concerned? Okay. So is everybody all set with that? Okay.
Sounds good.
All righty. And as I said, we won't be doing 3B, the Sandy Meadow, because we'll be doing that at our next meeting. We
Mary,
don't
I
have
have a
any financial.
question.
Yes, Janet?
Can we prorate what we award?
Can we what?
Prorate, in other words, say someone's asked for 200,000, but we want to give money to each project. Could we give that project 150,000? Or do we have to award either nothing or what they've asked for?
Oh, are you asking whether we could approve less than the 447 that he's asking of us
Yes,
tonight?
yes.
Yes, I guess we can approve whatever we agree to. Make a
All right.
motion. Yeah.
Thank you.
And then, and that has happened, I think, in the past, and then it's up to the applicant to decide whether or not they can
Accept it.
accept that condition. It would be in the form of an approval and a condition by doing fundraising or scale back the project or some other.
Raise more monies
raise more money.
individually.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And just
Joanna?
reminder that most of you, everybody knows that if you don't, like, for example, if they did do a fundraiser and raised 400,000, then, you know, it would be credited back. If we approved the whole amount and they didn't need it, it goes back into that same account. But yeah, so this is sort of the flip.
Right.
Thanks.
Okay, as I said, we don't have any financial reports at this time. I don't have any other business. Does anybody have any other business?
Well, I sent
Yes.
around the articles that,
Yes,
that from the Boston Globe.
The housing articles.
Right. Well, they're CPC articles. It's not just housing.
Well, no, but I'm
Yes.
saying it's regarding CPC
Yes,
monies with
yeah.
housing,
So I would just encourage people to read them, and I think they'll come in handy
on the discussion.
on some of our discussions. Yeah.
Yep. Any other business to bring up? If not, do I have a motion to approve, okay. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Carolyn, Carolyn and
Mhm.
Carolyn and Dave. All in favor?
Aye.
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 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let me see, I had written down. Eileen is absent.
And
Dan,
Ed left.
Ed left.
Ed left, right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have
Correct.
7. Is that right?
Yep.
Yes.
7-0, and it is 6:34.